Well, we are back, everybody, to yet another episode of Grip Wild's Men Who Matter podcast. Hey, it's the day after Father's Day. Got to spend a little time wishing all the daddies happy Father's Day. Hey, being a man who matters is simply being intentional with your kids if you have them. And my kids and family loved on me a little bit yesterday, and I enjoyed it. What about you, Brando? Did you have a good Father's Day?
Father's Day was good. I was joking last night. So we got up yesterday. We did the church thing. Then me and my son and another guy and his boys, we went to the shooting range and took the boys out and shot some skeet and shot some rifles. And my son loves a 22, hitting that plate, at 50 yards, just plink, plink, all day long. But we went home and my wife had got some groceries and she wanted to make homemade pizza for dinner. So I was joking with her because I just was laughing. It's not a big deal, but I made the pizzas. I cleaned up the kitchen. I made dessert. And then I saw the rug was dirty in the living room, so I was vacuuming the floor. And I stopped and I thought, man, it's Father's Day, man. I done made dinner, cleaned the kitchen, and now I'm vacuuming the floor.
That's funny.
But no, we had a good weekend. The weather was good in Alabama to be out and about. So.
It was. I spent all weekend playing baseball. My son playing travel baseball, and so it was our last weekend after a long season.
Last go round.
I ain't gonna lie, I'm spent, bro. I mean, it's Monday morning here at the Grip Wild office, and I'm dragging. I'm not even gonna act like I'm not, man. I got a crick in my neck.
You doubled up after baseball and church and headed to Atlanta for dinner.
And then I went to Atlanta last night for dinner. I got back at 11:30 last night. I'm still drinking coffee. I'm just going to be honest. It's probably 90 degrees outside, and I'm drinking coffee.
Yeah,
because I am dragging today.
Well, I was coming off of this weekend, this Father's Day weekend. I was thinking about, man, what we all talk about, be a man who matters. And of course, Father's Day is the one day a year we kind of get recognized for that, and what does it matter though? Like what is this purpose thing that we talk about? Like, that's really the fire. I mean, I ran into some guys this weekend and we had an interesting conversation about when it feels like you don't have a purpose, when you get lost in the chaos of life and you just get wrapped up in the rhythm of every day. And I think it's important, and I think it's hitting right now in the summertime, at least for me, because, when the kids come out of school, the rhythm changes in the house.
Absolutely.
And that's when you start to notice, that's when I see, man, okay, we got to make some adjustments here, because during the school year, you just get in the grind and the machine, But when that changes, we start to notice these things and you start to realize, man, what am I doing? What's going on here? And I ran into some guys this weekend and we had a conversation about that and how, man, sometimes it just feels like the wind goes out of your sail when you're not sure where you're going or what you're doing. And so we always talk about purpose a lot, you and I. And purpose, I think, can sometimes become this kind of phantom ghost that we're chasing, man. Let's go get your purpose, find your purpose, figure out your purpose, man. And I think it's difficult because I don't know that there's a textbook definition, right, that applies to everybody. But I think you and I have spent some time talking and listening and learning about, how do we uncover that? And hopefully, translating that to you guys who are listening, because I do believe that you have a purpose. There is a reason that you are still here breathing oxygen, right? And if we can help you figure that out, knock the dust off of it somewhat. And here's a quote that I heard this weekend that really just, man, it hit me while I was driving down the road. Like, you should never be driven to your purpose. Like, the world and the culture and the pressure should never push you into finding your quote unquote purpose. Your purpose is something that you're drawn to. And I think when we get living in the rhythm and the machine, we can lose that feel, that magnetism, that draw. And so the simple challenge today that I just want to unpack is, what's drawing your heart? Like, what is drawing you? Like, where's that pull, that subconscious pull? And pay attention. Like, what does that feel like? Have you lost it? Do you know what it is, right?
Yeah, if you think about it, I mean, that's great. Think about, like, pushing and pulling. I mean, even in the context of, am I even doing it right? I mean, when you're being pulled, when it's pulling you, you're not really in control. I mean, think about having a rope tied around your waist and somebody's pulling it. You're basically going where that rope is pulling you. And that's a good thing in the context of your purpose. Like, you want God pulling you towards what he has for you. But if you're being pushed, whether by culture or even you, like, think about pushing a lawnmower. You're controlling where it's going. When you're pushing things, you're controlling the path. But when you're being pulled, whatever's the source of pulling you is taking you where it wants to go. And in the context of your purpose in this push and pull, like, we don't want the world pushing us, and we don't want pressures pushing us to engage in things that we think are meaningful and are connected to why we exist. But if you feel this pull, maybe take a minute to see what that source is and what's pulling you and where is it pulling you, because when you're being pulled by something, there's a directionality there that could lead you somewhere that you're supposed to be.
So you're saying this, and it's just popping in my head. My kids were at the lake this past week with my parents for a few days, and they got the inner tubes out behind the boat. So my dad called, and he was like, "Hey, where's the rope?" And I said, "Oh, it's up in the shop." Whatever. So he's going to take the kids out on the boat, and you're talking about this, and I'm just thinking two things that just popped out at me about the difference between being pulled to something and pushed into something. Number one, it takes something bigger than you to pull you, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's got to be larger than me. And
Yeah.
so my kids are being pulled by a boat, right? Definitely bigger. I mean, the boat's big enough to pull me behind it.
Yeah.
So in life, when we talk about purpose, like, where are you dreaming? Like, what's the thing inside of you that's bigger than you? Because that's what's going to pull you. Something bigger than me cannot physically pull me out of this chair. It's got to be bigger. And there's got to be this mentality of, man, something that you're a part of, like the part that you're playing is part of something way bigger than you are.
That's right. I mean, your purpose is going to be bigger than you. And we miss that. We think, oh, I'm a little overwhelmed. Oh, this is scary. Oh, this seems like a lot. Oh, but look, the fact of the matter is your purpose is bigger than you. It's going to pull you. You're not going to be able to push your purpose, and it's going to make you uncomfortable, but that's a good thing. If there's something in your life, if there's not something in your life that's making you uncomfortable, if there's not something you're pursuing that scares you to death, then it's probably not part of your purpose. I mean, it's going to be bigger than you. It's going to be scary. That is a good thing. Don't let the world tell you that that's a bad thing or that it's not worth engaging in, because it is. If it's not pressing you, if it's not scary, you're not chasing after why you're here.
And what does that mean for something to be bigger than you, right? What does that mean that your purpose is bigger than you? And I think a simple way to see that in your life every day is to realize, man, the purpose of my life has got to be bigger in the sense that it's probably going to involve more people than just me. Why I'm here, to make a difference, to be significant, to make an impact, is not just to make an impact on my life. We talk about success versus significance being, where am I adding value to me versus adding value to other people, right? And that's the essence of purpose. That purpose that you're seeking, that you're looking for, that you need to keep you moving in life, it's going to have to involve other people. So how is your life, your skill set, what you're good at, what you love, how can you leverage that for the betterment of the people around you? That's the pulling that we're talking about. The second thing that jumped out at me, thinking about my kids being pulled behind a boat, is, man, when you're in the right environment and your purpose is pulling you, like you said before, you're not doing anything. It's not work necessarily. So think about the people in your life that you know that, man, they're in their lane. They're doing what they love. Man, it's, you're almost jealous of them sometimes. Man, I wish my life looked like that. I wish I could do that at my job. Man, that guy looks like all they do is have fun. Well, it's probably hard work, but it doesn't feel like hard work because the boat's pulling, right? Purpose is pulling. I'm not having to work that hard to follow it. And I'm thinking about my kids on an inner tube. It's a lot of fun when you're behind the boat being pulled along. It's a lot less fun when you're in the canoe having to paddle your way upstream,
Yeah.
Like, there's a difference in that.
Yeah.
And so being pulled by purpose instead of pushed by pressure, I think leads to a life that is productive, but it's not exhausting. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, just a lot of time in the church world, you hear this term, grace flow, and that always jumps out at me, even in the secular world, even in my business, in my relationships, and the things that I'm pursuing. I'm looking for that grace flow, and that it's a pool, though. I mean, grace flow is a pool, but you gotta take a moment and consider where in your life do you feel like you're being pulled, and where in your life do you feel like you're being pushed. And when you're being pushed, you need to take a look at what the source of that push is, because more than likely it's not the source that you want for you to be trying to achieve this fulfillment, this joy, this happiness, this peace, this growth in your life. But if you feel these areas of your life where you're being tugged and you're being pulled towards something, you don't understand, man, it's just like I can't see it, I can't feel it, or I can't, I can't identify it, but man, I keep getting pulled in that direction. It seems like something's drawing me over there. You might want to take a look. You just poke your head over there and see there may be something there that is a piece of the puzzle, that is a building block towards this journey that you're on of fulfillment, this journey of your life of life purpose, these steps that you're going through of progression in your life and growth in your life, and even in your healing process, your redemptive process, in the things that you're trying to leave behind and pursue something greater in your life, even in your growth and your intimacy in your relationship with Christ. Where is that pull? Where is that something that's tugging you? You've got to stop and really take a look at those things and consider them as huge clues, huge pieces of the puzzle for your fulfillment in your life, for you better understanding your purpose in your life and why you're here.
And I think that's going to be the big takeaway today for this week. If you're listening, take a minute, like hit the pause button, find, for me, a lot of times in the evening, I'll go out in the backyard with the dog. And while I'm throwing a tennis ball with the dog, I'm just kind of thinking, kind of wind down the day, right? Just trying not to let everything consume me, but just try to reflect. And I think we need moments of that reflection. And so today or this week, the challenge is reflect on these things. What is pushing you and what is pulling you? And identify those things, because of what you just said, where you feel that pull, that tug in your heart. Mm-hmm. If you look up and find yourself gravitating to the same, man, I love interacting with those people, or I love helping out that kind of way, or being a part of this thing or on this team, like stop for a second and figure out, man, what is it about that? And identify that this week.
Yeah.
And figure out, man, okay, what is it and why?
Yeah, think about, you saying that. Think about you taking your dog out in the yard and throwing that tennis ball. And my dog was the same way. Like, first of all, that tennis ball is going to end up being, it's going to end up driving you crazy, because that dog's going to become so addicted to that tennis ball. But think about it. Like, when you throw that tennis ball is pulling your lab to it, because your lab is inherently designed to retrieve. And so when there's something to retrieve, it does not matter what else is going on. Your dog is drawn to that tennis ball. You are not pushing that dog to go get that tennis ball. We do not have to teach animals who are bred to retrieve to go get something. We have to teach them discipline in it, but not that inherent draw of, when there's something to go get, they are going to go get it. They are drawn by that. So even that picture of you throwing that tennis ball, it's a beautiful picture of your lab is being drawn, they're on a rope to that tennis ball, right? Because that tennis ball, the process and the element and the action of going to get that tennis ball is so directly connected to why that dog exists. And it's the same thing for our lives. It's what in our lives are drawing us and pulling us towards our purpose. And we just have to spend some time intentionally identifying those.
So that's it. So this week, take a minute, identify the things that are pulling you. Don't just run through it. Start to identify it and figure out what it is, because those, like you said, Steve, those are big clues to help you understand the pathway to a life of significance, to a life where every day you make a difference and you go to bed feeling like, man, I didn't get it all right today, but I felt like I was getting closer.
I hope you guys have a great week. We're going to give it all we have this week to simply be men who matter, because we're intentional about what we're pursuing, just like you. We'll see you next time.